Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to find out that a legendary Philadelphia Eagles tight end may be about to end his career exactly where it all started. And look, this name is dominating conversations behind the scenes at the Jefferson Health Training Complex right now. We are talking about a player who holds the highest number of targets in the entire history of this franchise. We are talking about a player who caught the most important touchdown in Eagles history. We are talking about a 35-year-old veteran who tore his knee apart back in December, who everyone thought was done, but who is back on his feet, locked in, and looking for one last dance with the love of his life. And guess what? The Eagles are open to that conversation. Before I tell you everything about this potential historic reunion, who this player is, how he ended up on the market, and what his return would mean for the Eagles roster in 2026, I need you to hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because this is exactly the kind of news that moves all of Philadelphia. And if you are already subscribed, hit that bell so you do not miss a single update on the Eagles. Let's get into it. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the greatest tight end in Philadelphia Eagles history wants to finish his career exactly where it all began. We are talking about Zach Ertz, 35 years old, who spent the last several months rehabbing a devastating injury to his right knee, a torn ACL and LCL suffered back in December of 2025 while playing for the Washington Commanders. Ertz thought that nightmare of a late-season injury might have ended his career for good. But this man is not the type to quit. He has been putting in the work on his recovery. And according to the Inquirer, he openly stated that he would love to close this chapter in Philadelphia if the Eagles are willing. And the big news is that the Eagles are not closing that door. The franchise indicated they have brought players back in similar situations before, the most notable example being Brandon Graham, a franchise icon who returned after time away from the team. In other words, my friend, this is not just a fan's dream. This is a real conversation that could actually happen. But let us talk about the legacy first, because without understanding what Zach Ertz means to Philadelphia, you simply cannot grasp the weight of this story. Ertz was drafted by the Eagles in the second round of the 2013 draft. He spent 9 seasons in Midnight Green. He made 3 Pro Bowls. He won Super Bowl LII. And the most important reception in the history of this franchise, that was his. That 11-yard touchdown from Nick Foles in the final 2 minutes against the New England Patriots, the one that delivered the first Lombardi Trophy in Eagles history. That play is burned into the memory of every single person in Philadelphia forever. On the field, Ertz's numbers with the Eagles are on a completely different level. 579 receptions, the second highest total in the entire history of the franchise, trailing only Hall of Famer Harold Carmichael's 589. 6,267 receiving yards, the most by any tight end in Eagles history. 38 touchdowns, also the franchise record for the position. And there is more. His 868 targets with Philadelphia are the highest of any player in the entire history of this organization. More than any wide receiver, more than any running back, more than any other tight end. Nobody in an Eagles uniform has ever been thrown to more than Zach Ertz. Now you understand why this story hits so differently. This is not just football. This is living history. But there is a motivation beyond the emotional side of things here, my friend. There is one specific record that Ertz badly wants to own. He is just 10 receptions away from surpassing Harold Carmichael as the all-time leading receiver in Eagles franchise history across all positions. Carmichael has 589 catches. Ertz has 579. Just 10 receptions separate him from the very top of the record books of a century-old franchise. If Ertz returns to Philadelphia and plays another season, that record is not just within reach, it is practically guaranteed. But let us be real here, because Howie Roseman is not a general manager who makes decisions with his heart. He makes decisions with spreadsheets, with data, with strategic vision. So the million-dollar question is, does it actually make football sense to bring Ertz back in 2026? That is where things get complicated, because the Eagles' tight end room is already packed. And when I say packed, I mean seriously packed. Dallas Goedert was re-signed on a 1-year, $7 million deal and remains the unquestioned starter. He had an incredible postseason on the road to Super Bowl LII, leading all tight ends in yards and receptions during the playoffs. Goedert is the TE1, period. Grant Calcaterra was brought back for another season as the receiving backup, returning for his 5th year in Philadelphia. Johnny Munt was specifically signed to improve the blocking situation, a weakness that Howie Roseman publicly admitted he did not address well enough in 2025. Munt has a major advantage in that he already played alongside new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion in Los Angeles with the Rams, giving him a head start in the new system Philadelphia is installing. And then there is Stone Smart, another one-year tight end signing with a blocker and special teams profile. Cameron Latu is also on the roster as a special teams weapon. That is 5 tight ends on the roster before a single draft pick is made. 5. And that does not even account for the real possibility that Roseman selects a tight end in the early rounds of the 2026 draft, which would essentially slam the door shut on any Ertz reunion entirely. So where exactly would Ertz fit in this crowded picture? The article makes it clear that playing as a starter is completely off the table. Goddard is locked in, well-paid, and firmly established. Munt was brought in to solve the blocking problem Roseman identified. The available role would be as a receiving TE2, and in that case, Ertz would have to beat out Calcaterra for a roster spot. Calcaterra already has 5 seasons of relationship with this franchise, knows the system, and would cost very little against the salary cap. Ertz would be arriving fresh off a serious knee injury at 35 years old, needing to prove in training camp that he is fully healthy enough to handle a 17-game season. And here is the most interesting tactical question. Sean Mannion's new offensive system is going to demand more from tight ends in terms of blocking than ever before. The transition to a wide zone scheme will put tight ends in inline blocking situations that require consistent physical durability. Ertz was never an elite blocker during his career. He was always the pass-catching specialist, the safety valve, the first read for any quarterback. In a system that will ask more blocking from the TE2 role, does it make more sense to bet on a younger, healthy Calcaterra, or on a 35-year-old recovering from one of the most serious injuries in football? There is another factor that cannot be ignored, and one the Eagles will certainly weigh carefully. Ertz missed the majority of last season with Washington, and the injury was not a muscle strain or a simple bruise. It was a torn ACL combined with a torn LCL in the same knee. That kind of combined injury takes serious time to fully recover from. Howie Roseman's question is going to be direct. Can you play 17 games in 2026? And the honest answer right now is still a very big question mark. On the other hand, the emotional and leadership side has real value. Ertz is a championship veteran, a guy who has been in 2 Super Bowls, who knows what winning and losing in Philadelphia truly feels like, in a locker room adjusting to a new offensive coordinator, on a team that just won a championship and will have a massive target on its back in 2026. Having a guy like Ertz in the building every single day carries weight that does not show up on a cap space spreadsheet. The Eagles organization clearly feels that, given that they have not dismissed the possibility out of hand. It is also worth noting an important timing element here. If the Eagles do not draft a tight end in the early rounds, that opens real space for the conversation with Ertz to move forward. Contracts for veteran tight ends with this kind of profile tend to land at or slightly above the minimum, which would create 0 cap space problems. It would be, in practical terms, a good faith deal for both sides. Ertz gets to finish where he always wanted to. The Eagles gain a championship caliber veteran, a mentor for younger tight ends, and potentially the breaking of a historic franchise record that will generate enormous visibility and content for the organization. With so many variables still in play, a packed tight end room, Ertz's health still being monitored, the 2026 draft just days away, and a brand new offensive system being installed, what would be the right call for the Eagles? Bring the greatest tight end in franchise history back for one final historic mission, or stay focused on the present and stick with the players already building this team's new identity? Drop your opinion in the comments. Would you want to see Zach Ertz in midnight green one more time? Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I will be back shortly with the latest Eagles updates.